Hello and welcome to Tech with NK. I'm NK and excited to have you here. Today, I'll be starting a programming series on CS50's Introduction to Programming. My aim is to make videos of my solutions to the various programming assignments while providing useful programming tips and help you all following along with me succeed at the end of the day. So if this sounds interesting to you, I'll encourage you to like this video and subscribe to my channel so that you will not miss any upcoming content, because I intend to upload videos weekly, at least once a week, of my solutions to every programming assignment to help you all along with me. So that said, let's get right into it. Today we are going to look at problem set 0. We are expected to submit the following problems: indoor voice, playback speed, making faces, Einstein, and tip calculator. I've already opened all of these exercises on separate browsers so as to enable navigation easy. So I'm going to go right to indoor voice. We're expected to write this code and submit it with any interpreter of our choice, but I decided to use VS Code locally because I just prefer it that way. If you want to install VS Code locally on a computer and follow along with me, I'll leave a link in the description below of the video I made showing you how to do this. In this exercise, we are supposed to create a Python script called Indoor.py in a folder called Indoor that is able to get input from a user in uppercase and return it in lowercase, or input in any case, I guess. So I'll just go to VS Code and follow along with these instructions and then test the code using the test questions that have been given here. So in VS Code, I already have a terminal open. So I'm going to go ahead and create the folder Indoor. Oh, I haven't created a folder yet. Make the Indoor. And I'll cd to the folder. And I'll create the file Indoor.py using the code command. Okay, my file has been created for me. So to solve this question, all we need to do is create a variable that will contain the input from the user using the function input. Use a string method to convert this input into lowercase, then print the input, or print our output rather. So I'll call my variable sentence. I like to pass a string along with it. It's always good to leave comments to your code as good programming practice, so I'll just comment this. Now to convert this input into lowercase, there are a number of methods that we can use. If you check out the Python documentation for string methods, you see a number of them. But the one I'm going to use today is called lower. So I'll create a new variable I'll call .lower. It's a very easy method. You just need to call it as it is, and it's going to convert every word in the string sentence into lowercase. So I'm going to print that. New sentence. I'll save my file and go back to terminal and I'll run. So yes, our prompt will have to enter a sentence, sorry. So hello world. And as you can see, it has been converted to lowercase. There are a number of ways that you can do this using other methods, and I encourage you to check out the Python documentation to see different methods that you can use. One of these methods is called casefold. So if I modify this line here and I use casefold instead, it's still very easy. You just call it as it is. I save the file and I return and run this. Say thank you for watching. It's been converted to lowercase. So that's it for question number 1, and we'll go to the next one. Open my browser and go to Playback Speed. So this one too is also not very complicated. What we are expected to do is to create a script that gets input from a user, prompts the user for input, and outputs the same input, replacing each space with 3 dots, like you see here. So back in VS Code, I'm going to leave this directory or create a new folder called Playback. I'm going to move into that folder. Then I'll create a file called playback.py. Using the code command. And my file has been created for me. I'll just move up here. I can really save this file if I want to. So I'll move up here. I'll start with a comment, get input from the user. This is the same like in the previous code we just finished. Now, to add dots or to replace the dots, replace the spaces with dots, we are going to use a method called replace. You see, we're even given a hint from the exercise. It says replacing each space with 3 dots. So I'll create a new variable sentence dot replace. So the way this function works is it gets a number of parameters. The first called old, which is any string. So it's going to look at this variable called sentence and then look for this string that we're going to pass in this variable, and if it identifies it, it's going to replace it with a new string, the second parameter that we're going to pass into it. So the first string is just a space, and the new string will be 3 dots, and that's it. If I want to comment this, I'll say replacing space with 3 dots. Okay. Now if we print this new sentence, this should work just fine. I'll come back to the terminal. I'm going to run. So we've been prompted to enter a sentence, so I'll just say this is VS Code, and as you see, the spaces have been replaced with dots. this dot 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 is dot 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 VS Code. I encourage you to check out the Python documentation to see if you can implement this using any other method of your choice, so as to make you learn new methods every day. So that's it for question 2. We'll go to question 3. It's called making faces. So what we're expected to do is to write a script that gets input from the user, implement a function called convert that accepts a string as input and returns that same input with any smiley converted to the actual emoji, as we can see, or a frowning face converted to its actual emoji. So we're going to start by getting input from the user. We'll create this function. In this same file, we're expected to implement a function called min that prompts the user for input, calls convert on the input, and prints the results. So let's start doing it. I'll leave this current folder or create a new folder or call it faces. I'm going to create the file faces.py. And our file has been created for us. So I'll start by creating the function convert. We'll use the def keyword. We'll call our function convert, and this function will take a parameter. We'll call it sentence. And what it's going to do, or create a new variable, or call it edit, and this variable is going to use the parameter sentence and modify it. Now, how are we going to implement this code? We are expected to modify a string that contains a smiley and convert it into the emoji. Still, if you've been thinking about the replace function, then you're right, because that's what we're going to use. So I'll call the replace function, and I'm going to replace a smile with the emoji. I'm going to copy this emoji from our browser and I'll paste it here. Now this is going to replace any smiley with this emoji. However, if the user is frowning, how are we going to do this? And how do we make our code be able to differentiate from a smile to a frown? Now, using the functions we are familiar with, we are able to do this very easily. I'm still going to use the replace method, and this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to copy this emoji and replace it there. So why is this going to work? This is because the method replace, when it passes through this variable sentence, is going to look for this smiley and replace it with this emoji. However, if it does not find this smiley, it's not going to do anything to the variable sentence or to the string sentence. So it's going to just skip this and then go to this, meaning our variable is not going to be modified in any way. So we are done with this. We'll just return edit. Now we'll define a function main, and this function should get input from a user or save it in a variable called sentence. Or add a string to it. Then I'm going to call the function convert. I'm going to pass sentence equals sentence. Okay. Then I will print new sentence. And our function is okay. Now I need to call the function main, and that's it. If I go back to the terminal, oh, I forgot to move into the folder faces that I created. Anyway, that's okay. I will just run it from this home folder. So I'm going to run Python faces.py. Enter your sentence. I'm going to copy a sentence from the test here. Control C. It works just fine. Hello and the right emoji. I'll try again with goodbye and say, to make sure that everything is okay. And that's it. So we've solved question number 3. Let's continue. The next exercise is called Einstein. So we are expected to write a Python file. Call it einstein.py. It prompts the user for a mass as an integer and then outputs the equivalent number of joules still as an integer using this formula E equals to mc squared, where c is the speed of light and the value has been given to us already. And we're supposed to follow the same procedure. Create a folder, move into the folder, create the file. So back in VS Code, I'll start by creating my folder. Einstein. This time around I won't forget, and I'll move into that folder and I'll create the file .py. Okay, our file has been created for us. We've not been asked to implement any special function here, so we'll just start writing the code directly. I'm going to prompt the user to enter input. I'll save it in a variable called mass. Now remember that the function input gets input from the user and automatically converts this input into a string. But we are supposed to use mass as an integer. So we are going to use the function int to convert our input into an integer. Now we're going to create a variable, or call it speed of sound, or speed of light rather. And I'm going to copy this variable. I'm going to copy its content. Paste it here. Now I'll just print the result of our calculation. Now to implement E equals to mc squared, all we need to do is we're going to print mass times speed of light times speed of light, and that's it. So if I go back to the terminal and try to test this, einstein.py, enter your mass here, or enter 1, and there you have it. Your result is just okay. And that's it for question number 4. Next, we're going to do tip, or tip calculator. So we're still going to do the same things. We'll create a folder, we'll call it tip, move into it, and we'll create a Python file called tip.py. Now this file, we've been provided with a sample of it already, so we're supposed to follow this structure. I'll start by copying this and pasting it. In my file here, so I'll just go ahead and create this. Move into tip. Our file has been created. I'll paste this here. Now what are we expected to do? We're expected to implement a function called $to-float and another called %to-float. $to-float. $to-float should accept a string as input using this format and remove any $sign on it and return the amount as a float. So if we input $50, it should just return 50. And float to percent should get a string as input using this format and remove any trailing percentage sign and return the percentage as a float. So if we get 15% as input, we should return 0.15. So implementing $to-float, or just write a comment here. So how am I going to remove this $sign? If you're still thinking about the replace function, then you're totally correct, because I'm going to use the method replace to remove the $sign from the string before I convert this string to a float. So I'll create a variable, I'll just call it $. I'm going to use this parameter d that has already been given to us, d.replace. And I'm going to ask this method to look for any $sign and replace it with nothing. Just remove it, basically. So, and I'm going to return $ as a float. And that's it for $. Dollars to float. Next, I'm going to implement %to-float. Yes, we're still going to use the replace function. You're right. I'll create a variable called %, or use the parameter p. I'm guessing you can already do this. And I'll return float of % divided by 100. So this is to convert 15% to 0.15 divided by 100. And so we've implemented our functions correctly. And if you look at the function main, all it does is get input from the user, convert the input into its right format, and then multiply dollars with %, and return it in this format. So I'll save this file, and I'm going to run this code. How much was the meal? So if I use the values that have been given to us here, I'll just say $50 and 15%. So $50. What percentage would you like to tip? I'll say 15%. String has no attribute %. So Okay, I made a mistake up here. I'm supposed to say p.replace. Replace. Try that again. $50, 15%, and here you go, $7.5 or $7.50. So that's it for the implementation of tip.py. Now if you look at the question, it was specified that we should remove any leading $sign and any trailing %sign. I did not do any specific implementation to check whether there's a leading or a trailing $sign or a leading or a trailing %sign. I'm just hoping that the user is going to enter the input as it's supposed to be, and my code will just look for any $sign anywhere and remove it. Look for any %sign anywhere and remove it. So if you want to probably implement a code that is going to remove a leading $sign, like specify a leading and trailing %sign, I invite you to look at Python documentation, check it, test it, and try something on your own. Thank you for following along with me up to the end, and it's been a pleasure having you with me. If you enjoyed this video, please support the channel by liking and subscribing for every upcoming content. Like I said, I'm going to upload videos on all the exercises that I'm going to carry out in this course. So if you don't want to miss anything, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Also, before I leave, I encourage you to, as you look into all of these different scripts, try to do things a little bit different. Implement your own code and see how it works. So that's it for today, and I wish you a good day.